there was 2 military exercises going on in that area next to Thailand. It's called Cobra Gold and Cope Tiger. You're telling me a Boeing 777 flew past our military exercises and we just didn't see it at all?
For over a decade, they told us MH370 simply vanished. No radar, no wreckage, no answers. But new military footage changes everything. It shows what governments have denied for years and proves this disappearance was no accident. Military involvement. On March 8, 2014, at precisely 0041 Malaysian time, Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 departed Kuala Lumpur International Airport with 239 souls on board, 227 passengers and 12 crew members. The Boeing 777-200ER was bound for Beijing, a routine 5.5-hour journey that should have been utterly unremarkable. Yet, within 40 minutes of takeoff, something extraordinary happened. The plane's transponder went dark, communication ceased, and in those fateful moments, one of aviation's greatest mysteries was born. What makes this disappearance so haunting isn't just that the plane vanished, it's how it vanished. Modern aircraft don't simply drop off radar screens without leaving traces. They're tracked by multiple systems, monitored by satellites, and equipped with redundant emergency beacons. Yet, MH370 disappeared from civilian radar at 0121 Malaysia time, shortly after the captain's final radio transmission, "Good night, Malaysian 370. But here's where the story takes its first sinister turn. The plane didn't actually vanish, not entirely. Malaysian military primary radar tracked an unidentified aircraft turning sharply westward, crossing back over the Malay Peninsula, a path that made no sense for a flight to Beijing. This wasn't the behavior of a plane experiencing mechanical failure. This was deliberate. This was intentional. And yet, for reasons that would fuel years of speculation, Malaysian military officials delayed reporting this crucial radar data for several days, allowing search and rescue teams to waste precious time scouring the wrong area entirely. Why? Why would a nation's military withhold such vital information while families desperately awaited news of their loved ones? One of the earliest and most chilling military theories emerged within weeks of the disappearance. What if MH370 wasn't hijacked or sabotaged at all? What if it was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time?
There was 2 military exercises going on in that area next to Thailand. It's called Cobra Gold and Cope Tiger. The Cobra Gold exercises had just ended, and the Cope Tiger exercises were just about to begin.
Consider this. In the days surrounding MH370's disappearance, 2 major military exercises were underway in the region, Cobra Gold and Cope Tiger. These weren't small-scale training operations. These were massive joint exercises involving the United States Air Force, Royal Thai Air Force, and the Republic of Singapore Air Force. F-15s, F-16s, and sophisticated AWACS surveillance aircraft filled the skies. The 2014 iteration of Cope Tiger specifically focused on search and rescue operations, which some find grimly ironic given what followed.
Cope Tiger exercises, the theme was search and rescue that year as well. So presumably they would have had all the assets right there in that area, most advanced assets. You're telling me a Boeing 777 flew past our military exercises and we just didn't see it at all? This doesn't make any sense.
Aviation author Nigel Cawthorne went further in his controversial 2014 book, explicitly claiming that MH370 was shot down during a US-Thai joint strike fighter training exercise. According to this theory, the plane strayed into a restricted military airspace during a night exercise, was misidentified as a threat or intruding aircraft, and was engaged by fighter jets or surface-to-air missiles. The wreckage, Cawthorne alleged, was then quickly cleaned up to prevent an international scandal. This isn't unprecedented paranoia. History provides a sobering parallel. On July 3, 1988, the USS Vincennes shot down Iran Air Flight 655, killing all 290 civilians on board after mistaking the Airbus A300 for an attacking F-14 fighter jet during the Iran-Iraq War. The United States paid reparations but never formally apologized. If such a catastrophic mistake could happen once, couldn't it happen again? Former Proteus Airlines CEO Mark Dugan took this theory in a different direction, suggesting in a 2014 interview that US forces shot down the plane near Diego Garcia, a secretive US military base in the Indian Ocean, and orchestrated a massive cover-up.
Oh, Diego Garcia is a very secret facility. Of course, we're there. Intelligence is there. Certain sectors of the military are there, but nobody knows what they're doing at Diego Garcia in terms of the public. It just sits there doing the intelligence community's bidding. And of course, recent reports have come out about Diego Garcia's possible role in the Malaysian Flight 370 and its utter disappearance.
Aviation consultant Steve Busdigan noted that the plane's erratic altitude changes, climbing to 45,000 feet, well above the Boeing 777's certified maximum before descending sharply, could indicate either a cockpit struggle or an attempt to evade military engagement. But there's a problem with these theories. Multiple nations' radars should have detected any military engagement. Thailand, Indonesia, and India all had coverage of the region, yet none reported seeing MH370 shot down. No debris field was found in the immediate aftermath, no missile fragments, no admission from any government, and yet the silence itself feels suspicious, doesn't it? Perhaps even more disturbing than an accidental shoot-down is the theory that MH370 was deliberately targeted, not by terrorists or hijackers in the traditional sense, but by a sophisticated remote operation using technology most of us didn't know existed. Enter the Boeing Honeywell Uninterruptible Autopilot, a system allegedly designed after 9/11 to prevent hijackers from taking control of commercial aircraft. The theory goes that this system can be activated remotely, locking out the pilots entirely and allowing the plane to be flown from the ground. Former Malaysian Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad publicly suggested in May 2014 that the CIA remotely hijacked MH370, writing in a blog post that planes don't just disappear, and accusing Boeing and American intelligence of covering up remote control capabilities. Why would they do this? The cargo manifest provides a compelling motive. 20 employees of Freescale Semiconductor were on board that flight, 12 Malaysian and 8 Chinese nationals. Freescale, now part of NXP Semiconductors, specialized in advanced microchips for military applications, including stealth technology and radar systems. Some conspiracy theorists claim these engineers were carrying cutting-edge superconductor technology, materials that could revolutionize everything from quantum computing to anti-gravity propulsion.
There were on board, Malaysian, you may know this, Flight 370 on board, were a company that had engineers that were developing chips that could function at room temperature, supercompute at room temperature. Extremely valuable technology to defense and intelligence. They were on that plane.
A 2005 National Security Agency report on superconducting microchips references Freescale 9 times, highlighting the company's importance to national security. If China was attempting to acquire this technology, wouldn't the United States take extraordinary measures to prevent it? Wouldn't they perhaps be willing to sacrifice 239 lives to protect military secrets that could shift the balance of power?
They finally released some of the footage of the aircraft before it disappeared, and there's objects rotating around the plane, changing its course, and then poof, it's just gone. No wreckage, and the wreckage they claim they found an ocean away wasn't even from that flight.
Independent researcher Ashton Forbes has spent years promoting a different version of this theory, claiming that leaked US military footage shows MH370 being intercepted by advanced orbs, plasma-based drones, or directed energy weapons before vanishing through some kind of portal.
Strongest evidence on the satellite video is the coordinates. It's got these coordinates in the bottom left. And Newsweek actually published a fake debunk 2 days after these videos got popular on August 9th, 2023. These videos got popular around August 7th of last year in 2023. 2 days later, Newsweek all of a sudden posts this debunk. And it's just a copy and paste, like an AI took it from another article that was out there.
While these claims venture into territory that most aviation experts dismiss as science fiction, Forbes points to the involvement of high-ranking military officials like Admiral William McRaven, who commanded US Special Operations from 2011-2014 and was famous for orchestrating the Bin Laden raid. Could a similar operation have been executed on MH370? Of all the military theories, perhaps none has generated more persistent speculation than the Diego Garcia hypothesis. This tiny atoll in the British Indian Ocean Territory, leased to the United States as a naval and air base since the 1970s, has long been associated with CIA black sites and covert operations. The theory gained traction when witnesses in the Maldives reported seeing a low-flying jumbo jet on the morning of March 8, 2014. Residents on Kuda Huvadhu Island described a white plane with red and blue stripes, matching MH370's livery, flying unusually low around 6:50 3:15 a.m. local time, roughly 7 hours after the plane's disappearance. At least 21 witnesses filed police reports, with some hearing explosions later that day. Even more intriguing, Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah's home flight simulator contained deleted data points, including a runway at Diego Garcia. Was this evidence of planning, or simply a pilot's hobby interest in remote airfields? Then there's the Philip Wood photograph, perhaps the most controversial piece of evidence in the entire mystery. Wood, an American IBM executive, allegedly sent a black photo from his iPhone with metadata geotagged to Diego Garcia, claiming he'd been blindfolded and held captive by unknown military personnel. The message read, "I have been held hostage by unknown military personnel after my flight was hijacked. I work for IBM, and I have managed to hide my cell phone in my arse during the hijack." The photo was quickly debunked as a hoax with faked XIF data, and cell signals couldn't reach from the highly secured base anyway. But the fact that someone went to such lengths to create this fake speaks to how deeply the Diego Garcia theory has penetrated public consciousness. What ties all these military theories together is the suggestion of a massive coordinated cover-up. The Malaysian military withheld crucial radar data. Singapore's advanced radar systems, which should have detected MH370, released no data. The Australian-led search focused on areas of the southern Indian Ocean that some analysts argue were inconsistent with drift patterns of recovered debris. Former advisor to PM Mahathir, Matthias Chang, claimed that sealed evidence from foreign governments was given to Malaysia with non-disclosure conditions. What could be so sensitive that multiple nations would collaborate to hide it from grieving families? The military theories all share common threads: sophisticated technology, geopolitical tensions, valuable cargo, and the extraordinary capabilities of modern surveillance systems that should have made it impossible for a Boeing 777 to simply vanish. The United States operates the space-based infrared system, capable of detecting missile launches and aircraft movements globally. China has extensive satellite coverage. Russia monitors its borders vigilantly. How does a plane the size of a city block, carrying 239 people, simply disappear without any of these systems providing answers? Unless, of course, someone doesn't want those answers known. But if the military wasn't responsible, if this wasn't a shoot-down, a cover-up, or a covert operation, then what was it? When the official story leaves holes big enough to fly a Boeing through, people start looking elsewhere. And that's where the alternative theories take over, each one darker, stranger, and more human than the last. Alternative theories beyond military involvement. If military intervention seems too conspiratorial, the alternative theories offer their own brand of unsettling possibilities. Some are grounded in aviation science, others venture into territory that challenges our understanding of reality itself. Of all the non-military explanations, pilot suicide has gained the most traction among aviation experts. The theory focuses on Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah, the 53-year-old experienced pilot with over 18,000 flight hours. Former Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott revealed in a 2020 Sky News documentary that very top Malaysian officials believed from very early on it was a murder-suicide by the pilot, calling it almost certainly the case.
The FBI went in and looked at his simulator that he's got at home, and that pattern to where the plane was considered to have landed is actually a pattern that he did on his simulator by landing a plane.
Captain Zahari's home flight simulator contained deleted data points showing a route from Kuala Lumpur westward, then south into the Indian Ocean, eerily similar to MH370's presumed path. The data was from February 2 to 3, 2014, just days before the flight. Malaysian officials initially downplayed it as nothing sinister, but the parallels are difficult to ignore. Personal circumstances added fuel to the theory. Zahari was reportedly experiencing marital problems, possibly separating from his wife. He was politically active, supporting opposition leader Anwar Ibrahim, whose sodomy conviction was upheld on March 7, 2014, the day before the flight. Some speculated this political disappointment could have triggered a depressive episode. The aircraft's behavior supports deliberate human control. The transponder and communication systems were deliberately disabled. The plane made precise turns at waypoints, requiring aviation knowledge. It flew toward Penang, Zahari's hometown, before heading into the Andaman Sea. Some analyses suggest the plane climbed to 45,000 feet, potentially to depressurize the cabin and render passengers unconscious through hypoxia, before continuing for hours on autopilot until fuel exhaustion. Yet the 2018 Malaysian Safety Investigation Report found no evidence of pilot suicide, noting normal pre-flight behavior and no financial red flags. Zahari's family vehemently denies the accusations, and no suicide note was ever found. Comparisons to Germanwings Flight 9525, where co-pilot Andreas Andreas Lubitz deliberately crashed the plane in 2015 don't quite fit. That crash occurred within 10 minutes of the co-pilot locking the captain out. MH370 flew for 7 hours. If suicide was the motive, why the elaborate deviation? Why not simply dive the plane immediately? Canadian pilot Chris Goodfellow proposed what he called a startlingly simple explanation in March 2014. An onboard fire, possibly electrical in nature, that disabled critical systems and overwhelmed the crew with toxic smoke. MH370's cargo manifest included 221 kilograms of lithium-ion batteries, the same type that caused fires on other aircraft. In 2010, UPS Flight 6 crashed after lithium-ion batteries in the cargo hold ignited. The fire produced toxic smoke so quickly that when the pilot tried to grab his oxygen mask, he passed out from just 1 to 2 inhalations. The plane crashed, killing both crew members.
Around 1721 UTC, a lithium-ion battery fire explosion occurs and is seen by Mike McKay on an oil rig 300 miles away. He sees fire for 5 to 10 seconds. 9 witnesses along the coast hear loud noises at the same time. The plane goes dark.
Goodfellow theorized that Captain Zahari would have immediately turned the Boeing 707 westward toward Langkawi International Airport, the nearest suitable runway for an emergency landing. The airport has a long runway approachable over water, making it ideal for an emergency. The crew might have pulled circuit breakers to isolate the fire, which would explain the transponder shutdown. But as smoke filled the cockpit, they became incapacitated before completing the landing, and the plane continued on autopilot southward until fuel exhaustion. This theory gained credibility from aviation experts familiar with fire protocols. The plane's initial turn back toward Malaysia, followed by a path over Penang toward the Strait of Malacca, matches emergency diversion procedures. The Boeing 777 has halon fire suppression systems designed to contain cargo fires for at least 5 minutes, potentially giving the crew time to attempt a landing. However, the 2018 Malaysian report explicitly examined and dismissed the battery fire theory. The batteries were X-rayed before loading and showed no defects. They were stored separately from other cargo. Over 20 pieces of confirmed MH370 debris showed no signs of fire damage, no soot, charring, or heat exposure. Dark marks initially thought to be burn evidence were attributed to resin discoloration. More damningly, fire scenarios typically destroy aircraft within 20-30 minutes. Yet satellite data showed MH370 flew for approximately 7 hours. The deliberate system shutdowns, ACARs before the last voice contact, transponder seconds later, suggest human intervention, not fire damage. A more nuanced theory suggests that gradual or sudden depressurization led to hypoxia, oxygen deprivation, incapacitating everyone on board while the plane continued on autopilot. The 2005 Helios Airways Flight 522 tragedy provides a chilling precedent. That Boeing 737 crashed after the crew became hypoxic due to a pressurization system left in manual mode. The plane flew on autopilot for hours, with Greek F-16s observing the incapacitated crew. Everyone on board was in a deep coma at impact. If MH370 experienced similar depressurization, whether from mechanical failure or deliberate action, the timeline fits. The plane's erratic altitude changes, climbing to 45,000 feet, then descending, could indicate a struggle against hypoxia's effects. At 45,000 feet, cabin pressure drops rapidly. Oxygen masks deploy, but provide only 12 to 15 minutes of air. Symptoms of hypoxia include euphoria, impaired judgment, tunnel vision, and eventually loss of consciousness. The crew might have believed they were making rational decisions while actually succumbing to oxygen deprivation. In this scenario, whoever controlled the plane deliberately depressurized the cabin at extreme altitude to ensure no passengers could make calls during a later low-altitude phase.
At the same time, 8 fishermen on a boat 10 miles off the coast see the plane flying unusually low, consistent with a depressurization emergency event, attempting to provide oxygen for the passengers.
The co-pilot's cell phone did ping a tower over Penang, suggesting the plane flew low enough for cell signals around 1:52 a.m., about 30 minutes after the last radar contact. Critics point out that initial sharp turns suggest deliberate piloting rather than unconscious drift, and the deliberate system shutdowns don't fit accidental depressurization. In the weeks after the disappearance, British security expert Dr. Sally Leavesley proposed what she called potentially the world's first cyber hijack. The theory centered on vulnerabilities in modern fly-by-wire aircraft, where electronic signals control flight surfaces rather than mechanical linkages. Leavesley argued that sophisticated hackers could have infiltrated the aircraft's computer networks to override controls. The plane's in-flight entertainment system, IFS, might have shared data connections with flight-critical systems, creating a vulnerability. If hackers accessed the IFS via passenger Wi-Fi or pre-installed malware, they could potentially jump jump into the flight management system and alter navigation parameters, rerouting the autopilot. She referenced a 2013 demonstration by German security consultant Hugo Tesso, who unveiled Planesploit, an Android app that allegedly hacked simulated aircraft systems via radio signals. While Tesso's demo targeted training software, not real planes, Leavesley warned it highlighted real-world risks. Boeing swiftly denied such vulnerabilities existed in the 777, stating they were confident in the robust protection of this airplane and its connected systems. Aviation experts called it very unlikely, citing multiple layers of redundancy, firewalls, and physical separations between entertainment and control networks. The theory has been largely dismissed, but it raises uncomfortable questions about aircraft cybersecurity in an increasingly connected world. Some theories frame MH370 as a deep-state operation designed to distract global attention from concurrent events like the Ukraine crisis or escalating US-China tensions in early 2014. These theories often involve vague allusions to globalist agendas, CIA black ops, or geopolitical maneuvering without substantial evidence. Chinese businessman Miles Guo has alleged that Chinese Communist Party elites orchestrated the disappearance to hide internal crimes, though specifics remain murky. These narratives thrive in online communities, but lack the concrete evidence needed for serious consideration. What all these alternative theories share is an attempt to fill the void of uncertainty. When official explanations falter, human psychology seeks patterns, even impossible ones, rather than accepting the uncomfortable reality that sometimes we simply don't know. After years of speculation, one question still lingers. What do we actually know? Strip away the conspiracy theories, the wild claims, and the online rabbit holes, and we're left with the cold, technical truth, or at least what officials want us to accept as the truth, the official narrative, and what we actually know. After years of speculation, conspiracy theories, and anguished searching, what does the official investigation actually tell us? And more importantly, should we trust it? According to the Malaysian Ministry of Transport's final safety investigation report, released in July 2018, here's what authorities believe happened. At 0:41 Malaysia time on March 8, 2014, MH370 departed normally from Kuala Lumpur. The last aircraft communications addressing and reporting system, ACARS transmission, occurred at 01:07 Malaysia time, reporting normal systems. At 01:19 Malaysia time, Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah signed off with Malaysian Air Traffic Control. Good night, Malaysian 370. 2 minutes later, at 01:21 Malaysia time, the transponder stopped transmitting. Malaysian military primary radar then tracked the plane turning sharply westward, crossing back over the Malay Peninsula at varying altitudes. The last military radar contact was at approximately 02:22 Malaysia time, about 200 nautical miles northwest of Penang Island near waypoint Mikar on airway P628. But the plane didn't stop there. Inmarsat satellite data showed the aircraft's engines continued handshaking, sending automated pings for approximately 7 more hours until 8:19 Malaysia time. These pings formed 2 possible arcs, one northern over Central Asia and one southern into the Indian Ocean. Analysis of burst frequency offsets, BFOs, and burst timing offsets, BTOs, strongly suggested a southern trajectory. The final 2 BFOs indicated a rapid descent, estimated between 13,800 and 25,300 feet per minute, consistent with an uncontrolled spiral dive after fuel exhaustion. The Australian Transport Safety Bureau, which led the underwater search from 2014-2017, concluded the aircraft likely crashed in the southern Indian Ocean due to fuel starvation after following a southern track for approximately 7 hours. The search covered over 120,000 square kilometers but found no wreckage. While the main wreckage remains undiscovered, confirmed debris began washing ashore starting in July 2015. A flaperon, a movable section of the wing, was found on Réunion Island in the western Indian Ocean, approximately 4,000 kilometers from the presumed crash site. French authorities confirmed through serial numbers that it came from MH370. Over the following years, more than 20 additional pieces were recovered from shores in Mauritius, South Africa, Madagascar, and other locations around the Indian Ocean. These included cabin interior panels, engine cowlings, and other structural components, all confirmed through part numbers or maintenance records as belonging to 9M MRO, MH370's registration. Ocean drift modeling conducted by Australian researchers showed that debris originating from a crash site in the southern Indian Ocean would naturally wash up on African coastlines over the course of months to years, consistent with the discovery locations and timing. This evidence strongly supports the official Southern Ocean crash theory. However, some debris showed anomalies that fueled continued speculation. Initial reports of burn marks on some pieces were later attributed to resin discoloration rather than fire damage. The condition of the flaperon suggested it may have been deployed at impact, though experts disagreed on whether this indicated controlled ditching or simply the natural position during a high-speed descent. The 2018 Malaysian investigation concluded that MH370 was deliberately diverted from its route, but couldn't determine who was responsible or why. Investigators found no evidence of mechanical failure, confirmed the plane was airworthy, and noted that someone with aviation knowledge had manually disabled communication systems. The initial search focused on the South China Sea, based on the last known radar position. When military radar data revealed the westward turn, the search expanded to the Strait of Malacca and Andaman Sea. After Inmarsat analysis indicated the southern trajectory, a massive underwater search began in the southern Indian Ocean. This search, one of the largest and most expensive in aviation history, cost over $200 million and involved multiple nations. Ships used sophisticated sonar and autonomous underwater vehicles to scan the seafloor but found nothing. In 2018, private company Ocean Infinity conducted a no-find, no-fee search, using autonomous underwater drones to cover an additional 112,000 square kilometers. Again, nothing. The searches were suspended, but in early 2025, Malaysia signed a new search contract with Ocean Infinity, focusing on a refined 15,000 square kilometer area based on updated drift modeling and amateur radio data analysis. Aviation analyst Admiral Cloudberg, who has studied dozens of air disasters, concluded that the evidence strongly suggests deliberate human intervention, most likely by someone in the cockpit. The precision of the initial turn, the systematic disabling of communications, and the apparent avoidance of radar coverage all point to intentional actions by someone with aviation expertise. However, he notes that without the flight data recorder, black box, any conclusion remains speculative. The data recorder could tell us exactly what controls were manipulated, what the pilot said, what alarms sounded, and potentially reveal the entire sequence of events. Without it, we're left inferring from incomplete radar tracks and satellite mathematics. British aerospace engineer Richard Godfrey has proposed new search areas based on weak signal propagation reporter WSPR data, a method of tracking aircraft using amateur radio signals. While some experts urge caution about this approach, it represents one of the few new investigative angles in recent years. Lost in technical analysis and conspiracy theories are the 239 families still waiting for answers. Many have expressed frustration with the official investigation, particularly the delays in releasing information and apparent withholding of data. Chinese families, representing the majority of passengers, have been especially vocal, staging protests at Malaysian embassies and accusing authorities of deliberately concealing information. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.